right, I am happy to be joined with Melise Panetta. She is the president of BevCanna. She joins us once again. Melise, how are things?
Things are really good. Thanks. How are you?
Good. It's great to obviously catch up and connect. A lot of news obviously transpiring within the company yourself, the industry as a whole. It's a little slow, I'd say, on the market side, but a lot of momentum continues to change. What are you seeing, I guess, on the forefront on a day-to-day basis that maybe you could share with my viewers and most importantly, BevCanna investors?
Well, we're doing a lot of work behind the scenes here. So there's lots of really good news, I think, that the investors are going to be expecting to see in the next little bit.
It's great. Let's focus now on the U.S. You've made it public that your intentions are to expand your U.S. presence this year, and BevCanna already is an exclusive licensee, manufacturing and distribution partner with Keef Brands, which is the highest grossing cannabis beverage company in the U.S. So maybe provide us an update to the investors in the inroads BevCanna is making towards expanding TRACE brands and the overall product line in the U.S. market.
Yeah, for sure. So the US is a key market in our global expansion. And the main reason for that is because the consumer and the retail trade are very, very similar in the US to Canada, really.
Right.
But the difference is it's on a much, much, much larger scale.
Yeah, of
So
course.
we've been doing a lot of work in the last couple of months to basically gain a solid footprint, would be the best way to say it, in the US market. So we're currently in the final stages of locking down our full route to market. So that's everything from production, manufacturing, warehousing, distribution, sales, marketing, all that kind of stuff, to be able to make a meaningful impact in the US market when we get in there.
Big time. That's great news, to say the least. So I wanted to ask, like, how quickly do you see your entire strategy unfolding in the U.S., knowing that you're gearing up for production with Keef and expanding network of emulsion suppliers?
In the US, I think we're looking to get there on the TRACE side of the business sometime in the third quarter. Like I said, we're looking down the last of the details right now to get into that market in a meaningful way. But our cannabis beverage business right now is focused exclusively in the Canadian market, right? So we're bringing the Keef brand from the US into Canada.
Yep.
And again, we're making some pretty good progress in that space as well. Right now, at this point, we're in conversations with the provinces in terms of getting the listings from coast to coast and getting those first orders, which I think is important as the investors are looking for us to get to production and essentially get to revenue, which is what we're working on right now.
What's the feedback been about the product specifically amongst consumers? Have you heard much feedback?
Yeah, the feedback has been very positive. And the important thing to note is if you look at the cannabis beverage space right now, there's a lot of, it's kind of gone really niche really quickly, in the sense that there's a lot of products that are kind of tea-based or lemonade-based or those kinds of things, a lot of water-based, sparkling waters and that. But what they don't have is a big cola presence. And that's really important, because if you look at beverage outside of cannabis, cola is one of the biggest sectors in the beverage space. So we're going to bring cola, which is a familiar concept to consumers, to the cannabis world. And I think that's going to allow, consumers to come in and try products who may not have necessarily had a product they wanted to try before.
How much of an interest when you talk about cola? I would think that's a big opportunity amongst consumer interest in the U.S., is it not?
Well, yeah, Keef is the #1 beverage in the US. And I really do believe that a lot of that is because of the fact that they've got good tasting colas that people like. You read a lot about what consumers say. I read a lot about what they talk about. And, they go so far as to make, for example, root beer floats with the Keef product in the US. And again, I expect a lot of those behaviors in the US to come to the Canadian market as well.
It's interesting. Where do you see, or where do you envision, I guess, the brand amongst American consumers, let's say in the year to 2 years, when it comes to the overall brand awareness?
Yeah, for the TRACE brand, what I would like to see in the next couple of years, firstly, I'd like to see a solid footprint on our base, right? So we've got a great base business, a great base product with our alkaline and our plant-based products. I'd like to see that local and global. And when I say local, I mean here in Canada, having basically full distribution from coast to coast, all the major customers, and growing rapidly. That's what I'd like to see here locally. Globally, I'd like to see us get meaningful presence in the markets we've talked about. So, Asia Pacific, US, and a few other ones that we are also looking at targeting as well. And I would also like to see us innovating, innovating in a very targeted and strategic way. So I don't want to see us putting out hundreds of products. I want to see us putting out really good products that consumers want, where there's a white space in the market and retailers are going to come on board. And I think that's going to be the recipe to success for us. So getting our base solidified, well distributed, and some select targeted innovation, I think that's the key for us.
What would you say, I guess, are your immediate short-term catalysts that you need to overcome, both in Canada and in the US?
I think it's getting distribution,
Yeah.
100%. I think we got to get into more stores. We've got a consumer proposition that consumers like. I mean, when we look at the wellness sector and we look at functional beverages, which is where these products play essentially,
Right. Yeah.
It's a growing sector, and alkaline water and plant-based waters are going to be some of the fastest growing subsegments within that sector. We know that for a fact. And we're going to do really well in those areas, specifically because we've got a really good, pure alkaline product that's untouched, right? It comes from an aquifer under the ground. In its format, it's untouched, unprocessed, and a very differentiated plant-based mineralized water. So I think the product proposition's there. We just have to get it out to as many stores as possible. And that's essentially what we're doing.
One of the things I actually wanted to address too, and I think it's important to learn more of this process of what's involved in making a successful brand. I think the average person may not appreciate how much effort goes into making a successful brand, from sourcing the ingredients to operating a complex manufacturing and bottle facility to securing third-party logistics. So what would you say is the most important factor in this space that makes you a leader versus a company that's not a leader within the space?
Yeah, I think there's really three things. Okay, so the first one for me is the consumer products have to be on trend. And I know I sound like a broken record, but that is super important and the most important thing. And again, for us at BevCanna, we've got products that are on trend. Again, so whether it's the trace beverage in the wellness space, wellness is again a big growing sector.
Yeah.
And cannabis is on trend and it's going to continue to grow. It's just at its infancy. So that'd be the first thing. The second thing I would say is a good understanding of the retail trade. So for us, we've got great relationships in Canada. We've got great relationships in the US, and we're building them out internationally as we build out our international strategy. And we brought on two great folks. So Rafael Capusti and Bill Marcos. We talked about them last time we met.
Yeah.
Great sales leader who I think they're going to do really good things and help us develop against our goals. And then the final thing is experience, right, in packaged goods, I would say. And our leadership team is very experienced in the CPG space. Combined, the team has over 100 years experience in packaged goods. And they're at some pretty big companies like S.C. Johnson and General Mills and Unilever and Colgate and, PepsiCo, like really, really great training ground companies. Our facility team has been operating that facility for over a decade, and we've brought on some awesome quality assurance folks. So, having products that consumers want, knowing how to make, move, and sell them, and then having a great team, that's really, to me, the recipe of success. And that's what's going to make us, differentiated versus everyone else.
Yeah, and I asked that question because when I look at your background and your skill set and experience, along with the team that you're forming and their experience as well, do you see more people within the industries that you were in before getting into the cannabis side of things, and knowing that you're already in it and you're forming a team that's in it? When you talk about first mover advantage, like what I guess advantages does that bring BevCanna versus, say, other companies, I guess, that are still establishing?
Yeah, I think that you are seeing more people coming into cannabis from the packaged goods space. In fact, some folks that I know and respect very highly, the people that I've worked with in the past coming into the space. I think what you're going to see with that and the competitive advantage that they're going to get, firstly, is really looking at the consumer, right? And really looking at what the consumer wants versus what they can make, right? That's a big difference.
Yeah.
A lot of folks say, this is what I have, great. And this is how much I can, this is how much I'm going to price it for, because that's what my profit, dictates. But that's backwards, right? It's what does the consumer want and what is the consumer willing to pay? So I think that's the first and most important thing, is just getting those insights right and getting products that actually match what the consumer's looking for. That is definitely 101. And you're going to see more and more of that in the cannabis space, definitely from our team, because that's what we're focusing on.
Mm-hmm.
But then also, just bring that also to retail, right? Approaching your customers and talking about how we can help them grow the category. Not just this is what I have to sell. It's here's the white space. Here's how you can grow. And I think our customers are going to appreciate that as they see more and more of that, because that's stuff that's coming from basically the packaged goods space into the cannabis world. And then I would say the third thing would be a very solid operation, whether it's from supply chain, manufacturing, and importantly, especially importantly, would be quality control.
Right. You talked in there and alluded to like the big corporate CPG world. A lot of product always want to sell, but most importantly, have you ever asked the consumer as to what they want? Have they missed that, I guess? And has that been a trend going on for a while? And do you see that the biggest difference as to, say, the industry you're in now versus where you were before?
Oh, 100%. That is what I'd say is the biggest opportunity right now, is just focusing on the consumer, because at the end of the day, that is what every consumer packaged good, and that is essentially what cannabis is. It is a consumer packaged good. Well, the first word is consumer, right? And so you have to focus on what they want, what they're willing to buy it for. Is there another product out there that's meeting that need? I mean, you have to start there. And if you don't start there, everything else you're doing is essentially not going to be as powerful as it could be as if you started there. And that's how we are working. Every element of our business is 100% focusing on the consumer.
Great. So is that the feedback, I guess, when you talk about, dipping into the cannabis cola kind of like, environment, is this feedback that you received from consumers as to what they wanted?
Yeah, 100%. Well, whether we go out and actually talk to consumers or just look at what's available and understand what consumers like and want, definitely what we do. So that's where we started, is trying to understand where that white space was in the market. And it was definitely cola based. But also, if you think about it again, there are some folks that are a bit hesitant to come into cannabis for a variety of different reasons. It's new, it's taboo, et cetera, et cetera. One of the reasons is I don't understand or like the formats that it's being offered in. So if you can give them a format that they're familiar with.
Can you give me an example of that?
Yeah, like a format like a cola. Like a cola is just a format of beverage, right? Isn't it? Okay, I understand what a cola is. I understand what an orange drink tastes like. I understand what a root beer tastes like. I'm maybe going to be comfortable to try that particular product versus, there's other products out there that have names that don't necessarily reflect what the product actually tastes like, right?
Mm-hmm.
So taste is important when it comes to food and beverage. And if we're not focusing on taste, we're going to miss the mark. So, you have to think about where consumers' heads are at when you're bringing products into the market. And cola is definitely a space we know consumers want.
Keep it simple, right?
100%.
Yeah, exactly. Last thing I wanted to ask is, back in March, BevCanna signed an important white label agreement with State B Beverages and Enthusiasmus Incorporated, which will introduce more BevCanna original products in the marketplace. Just a quick update as to how that's developing. And, you talked about distribution. Do we see additional white label agreements to expand the TRACE brand into Canada?
Yeah, well, I'll perhaps comment first on the cannabis side. So yeah, we spoke last time. The funnel was full when we talked last time. And what I'll tell you is it is still full. It is possibly even fuller, if I could use those words. We are working on this, I would say, on a daily basis. And in fact, we will have some news to share soon as it relates to expanding our client base on the cannabis side of the business. But equally, or perhaps even more importantly, right now the focus is also on getting the clients that we do have, plus Keef, into production, right? So we are in active conversations, like I said, with the provinces, getting the listing work done, getting the orders generated, and getting them to production, getting them to market, because essentially that's what our revenue model is based off of. And we want to bring revenue into the organization as quickly as possible. So that is our focus at the moment, in addition to keeping that pipeline, the funnel, if you will, very, very full and very, very healthy. So more news to come on that, but we're very happy with the progress we've made.
Great to know. Busy times, to say the least.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Well, listen, I appreciate you taking the time. Let's keep in touch, and we'll obviously be watching closely as things continue to expand. And say hi to everybody at BevCanna for me, and let's keep in touch.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Melise.